The Galaxy S25 Edge is remarkably thinner and lighter than your average flagship model, complete with the same One UI 7 experience and Galaxy AI features found on the S25 Ultra. But despite its impressive design, the S25 Edge's biggest shortcoming is its battery life performance. Apart from foldable phones, the designs of today's best phones haven't really changed all that much over the last decade I have been reviewing them. Each iteration has continually produced bigger phones, which seems to satisfy the appetite of what people crave. Samsung's taking a slightly different approach with the Galaxy S25 Edge, and I'm still not sure it's the right strategy. Although the S25 Edge looks very much like any other ordinary slate from the front and back, Samsung's focusing on its thin construction as a big selling point, all while including similar hardware as the S25 Ultra and other flagship models. But at the same time, the $1,099 starting cost of the Galaxy S25 Edge, which makes me wonder if the cost is really worth it, especially when the Galaxy S25 Ultra isn't too far off at $1,299. There is also the Galaxy S25 Plus to consider at $999, which offers nearly the same exact hardware. Samsung certainly does make it hard on me to decide if the Galaxy S25 Edge is worth its cost. A phone this sleek is an engineering marvel on its own and surely deserves a premium cost attached to it, but there are trade-offs that I'll go into detail in the other categories. For $1,099, you get a phone with 256GB of storage. Upgrading to 512GB raises the price of $1,219. There are three color options to choose from: titanium silver, titanium jet black, and titanium icy blue. There's a part of me that wishes for a couple of extra choices, especially considering how a phone of this caliber begs to be naked to show off its best asset. Samsung does make an ultra thin case that doesn't add a whole lot of bulk, but it would be nice just to have a couple of extra colors to choose from. The Galaxy S25 Edge is now available globally with up to $630 off in savings with a qualifying trade-in. I am not entirely blown away by this design, but Samsung still deserves some credit on how the Galaxy S25 Edge is significantly thinner and lighter than any phone on the market right now. It's hard to appreciate the Edge's 5.8mm frame unless I put it side by side against a S25 Ultra or iPhone 16 Pro Max. Despite this engineering achievement, there's a part of me that wishes the S25 Edge were thinner. I know it may seem like I am picky, but I just don't get the sense that its thin construction rivals that of the original Motorola Razr from 2004, or how the iPod Nano showed a tremendous size difference compared to the standard iPod. I just don't have the same impression with the Galaxy S25 Edge over other phones today. The underrated part about the S25 Edge's design relates to its lightweight feel, which I think is much more impressive than its thinness. Tipping the scales at 5.75 ounces, it's much more palpable in my opinion, especially when the Galaxy S25 Ultra weighs in at 7.69 ounces. There's almost a 29% weight difference between the two, which is pretty remarkable. However, the Edge is only 15% lighter and 22% thinner than the Galaxy S25 Plus. For a phone this thin and light, I have to admit the Galaxy S25 Edge still manages to feel incredibly solid, which is attributed to its titanium frame and Gorilla Glass ceramic too covering its display. Whenever devices get shrunken in size, they can sometimes feel fragile, but not this. It also helps this model features the same IP68 rating as the Galaxy S25 Ultra. After I reviewed the Motorola Razr Ultra 2025, I am less convinced by the Galaxy S25 Edge's design because Motorola's device is almost the same size, weight and thinness, but it's a foldable phone. The specs show that the Galaxy S25 Edge beats the Razr Ultra, but they are a lot similar in reality. And this is exactly why I am not as enthralled by S25 Edge design. One reason why the Galaxy S25 Edge draws a lot of comparison to the S25 Plus is that it features a similar 6.7-inch AMOLED display with QHD Plus resolution. I personally feel the size is still too big for one-handed use, but it's much easier to handle than the 6.9-inch Galaxy S25 Ultra. Plus, it helps the Samsung has kept the bezels as slim as possible. I will say that this panel looks really sharp, and I'd argue it's better than the one in the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Colors look rich while it maintains its clarity at wide angles better than the Ultra. But what's even more impressive is how the Galaxy S25 Edge sports a much brighter panel, reaching a peak brightness of 1997 nits, which is a smidge brighter than the S25 Ultra. Apart from that, it's worth mentioning that the Galaxy S25 Edge features an adaptive 120Hz refresh rate that makes animations and scrolling with the interface so buttery smooth. All in all, it's a superb display that's perfect for me to squeeze in a TV show or movie. The first compromise the Galaxy S25 Edge makes to reach its thinner construction is the sacrifice to its camera arsenal. The rest of Xiaomi's flagship line gets a triple camera array at the very least, but the Galaxy S25 Edge gets a dual camera setup instead, which consists of 200MP main shooter paired with a 12MP ultra-wide. The trade-off here is that the Edge lacks a dedicated telephoto camera, which leaves all the zooming to its main camera. Even though the camera and lenses protrude much further out from the rest of the phone, I'm not terribly bothered by that, but there's a fair amount of oval if you lay the S25 Edge flat and try to type. Samsung doesn't explicitly say it's the same identical 200MP main camera as the Galaxy S25 Ultra, but the Edge is inherently at a disadvantage because all other S25 models are backed by optical zoom cameras. Around the front, there's a 12MP selfie camera with a pinhole cutout for it. Here are some camera samples of the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge. Not only is the Galaxy S25 Edge the thinnest Galaxy S phone to date, it's also one of the most powerful as well, courtesy of its Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset and generous 12GB of RAM. This combo effortlessly handles just about anything you can run on the phone while also juggling multiple apps without having to refresh them. Benchmark scores also validate processing power with average Geekbench 6 single and multi-core scores of 3129 and 9916 respectively for the S25 Edge. Interestingly, these scores are better than the Galaxy S25 Ultra but behind the S25 Plus ever so slightly. I don't notice any difference in terms of its real world performance as the S25 Edge delivers the same GP response with everyday actions such as opening apps, surfing the web, watching videos and more. Due to how Samsung shaves off a lot of space inside the phone, the Galaxy S25 Edge features a newly configured vapor chamber to mitigate heat building. Although I don't see a tremendous difference in how games I play religiously run on the Galaxy S25 Edge, 3D Mark benchmark scores reveal it's not as good as the S25 Plus or S25 Ultra. The S25 Edge's 149.18 FPS average frame rate with 3D Mark's Wildlife Unlimited test isn't as fast as the other two phones, though this frame rate is still incredibly smooth. Clearly, the biggest compromise in engineering a phone this thin is that the battery isn't going to be as big, and as a result exposes the Galaxy S25 Edge's biggest weakness. The 3900 mAh battery inside is quaint by flagship standards, as the S25 Plus and S25 Ultra offer larger 4900 mAh and 5000 mAh batteries respectively. With the S25 Edge set to adaptive refresh rate, the phone posted an average battery life of 12 hours and 24 minutes in our benchmark test, far less than the other two S25 models. I also think it's worth including the Razer Ultra 2025 in this conversation too, just because it has 4700 mAh battery and similar size, yet the Razer still beat the S25 Edge with its time of 15 hours and 42 minutes. In my day-to-day use, I noticed the S25 Edge draining its battery faster than other phones, to the degree that I have to charge it at some point during my workday. Despite the other efficiency of the Snapdragon 8 Elite, it's evident here that it's not enough to offset the small battery of the Galaxy S25 Edge. Now, I wouldn't be as critical if the S25 Edge could charge really fast in a short time, but Samsung caps the S25 Edge's wire charging speed at 25 watt. It would have been nice to get 45 watt charging instead to match up better with the Galaxy S25 Plus and S25 Ultra. After 15 and 30 minutes of charging, the S25 Edge's battery capacity goes to 27% and 54% respectively. The Ultra, with its larger battery, reached 37 and 71% in those times. Luckily, there is no compromise with the software in the Galaxy S25 Edge. That's because it packs the latest One UI 7 experience on top of Android 15, along with the latest set of Galaxy AI features that arrived with the rest of the S25 series. This consists of newer editions like the Now Brief and Now Bar, with the latter acting very much like Apple's Dynamic Island and Live Tiles to give me previews and mini players of certain apps. Cross-app actions is here as well, and the AI agents it uses play nicely with the native apps, like being able to search for the next Yankees game and adding to it my calendar. Like the other S25 models too, the S25 Edge suffers from a lack of deeper third-party app support for greater functionality. In terms of generative AI, the Galaxy S25 Edge has the same editing tools I have leaned on with the rest of the Galaxy S25 series, like Generative Edit to erase objects with AI assistance, Sketch to Image for taking my crude drawing and making them a photorealistic, Audio Eraser to take out background noise from my videos, and Portrait Studio that applies an artistic touch of my selfie. When it comes to productivity, the Galaxy S25 Edge is just as superb in the area, with key features such as multi-window that allows for up to 3 apps to run simultaneously on its large screen. It's not as intuitive as the Galaxy Z Fold 6, but it still gets the job done. The Galaxy S25 Edge also has my favorite Samsung feature, DeX, which allows me to connect it to a monitor for the desktop-like experience. I can tell you how this has saved me a number of times when I left my laptop at home, so being able to tap into this adds more value to the Galaxy S25 Edge. There is no arguing that the software is just as rich and deep as the rest of the Galaxy S25 series, so I'm happy there is no compromise here. In fact, the Galaxy S25 Edge gets the same 7 years of major Android and security updates that will keep on adding new tools and features. I really want to like the Galaxy S25 Edge, but it's difficult because I was hoping for much more out of this thin phone. First and foremost, the biggest trade-off in making me a phone this thin and light is that the battery life is compromised in a big way. I wouldn't be as critical about that if the charging speed were faster, but it isn't. The Edge's build construction serves as a precedent for all phones going forward, but it does pose a conundrum in the sense of how much value it offers by doing this. Again, I have to point out the Galaxy S25 Plus and its $999 cost. That's $100 less than the S25 Edge, but the S25 Plus still offers a thin and light design of its own, along with a dedicated telephoto camera, a larger battery that lasts much longer, and a faster 45 watt charging speed. At the same time, I have to include flip style phones like the Motorola Razr Ultra 2025 into the conversation because it too has a thin design. Sure, it's more expensive at $1,299, but it has double the storage capacity, longer battery life, and a distinct advantage of being a foldable phone. For me, it offers more utility than the Galaxy S25 Edge thanks to its foldable design and outer screen. And finally, there's the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra at $200 more than the Galaxy S25 Edge. You will have to deal with a thicker and heavier phone, but I think those concessions are well worth it because of how the Ultra has better zooming capabilities with its camera's outstanding battery life, faster charging, and the extra utility of the S Pen. Plus, it has a larger screen to round it out. I think I would be more impressed in the Galaxy S25 Edge if Samsung made it even thinner while also shrinking down the size of the phone, but still packing the same chipset and cameras. Samsung's lineup is already dominated by several phones with a 6-inch displays, but it would have been different if there was another small phone option. The Galaxy S25 Edge is an okay start to this trend, but its successor is going to need to do a lot more to really differentiate itself from the pack.